Should we use the term Palestine? I've seen some people argue that this term was created as a cynical ploy to get rid of the Jewish state. There really never was a Palestinian state. The concept of Palestinians is not really something that the Arabs of the region cared about. They would have been happy to be part of Jordan, Syria, whatever. And other people say, well, it's the language they use now, so we might as well just use it. Douglas Murrey has asked this question at a forum. This was a group of people. The channel is called JA21. And he was speaking about this very question, or rather he was asked this question by someone in the audience. Have a watch at what he says.
Would you agree, Mr. Murrey, that the current wave of anti-Semitism is based on the fallacy that the State of Israel was founded on a nation called Palestine, which never existed as such? And would you then, if you agree, join me in no longer using the fallacious words Palestinians, Palestine, pro-Palestinian protest, which all seem to perpetuate the myth that Jews are villains who steal other people's countries?
Yes, that's a very brilliant point, and you're right, and it's very important. The world didn't ever talk about Palestinians as such until around 1964, as you know. And then it really came in after 67 and 73. They were called the Arabs, and the Palestinian peoples are a set of tribes and families, and I have a friend who was born in Gaza in the time when Egypt ran it, and she was an Egyptian. She wasn't a Palestinian, she isn't a Palestinian. And yes, the development of the idea of the Palestinian people, which is a misnomer in my view, was because it made the Jews the usurpers, and it made the Jews the overlords. And it's very, very interesting because it was a brilliant tactic to do that. Now you also get the one where people claim that the Jews sort of just arrived from Europe and had no historic connection with this land, and you get the churches are responsible for much of this in the West. They do all these things like Jesus was a Palestinian. It's not a very accurate reading of the text, but yes, it is enormously dangerous because it also plays into the thing which is the ideology of our time that's spilt out from the idiots in American campuses all over the place. As my friend Andrew Sullivan said, we all live on campus now, regrettably. And that is the idea that the whole world, and it just came from America, this idea, the whole world can be divided into victim and victimizer, oppressor and oppressed, colonizer and colonized, and so on and so on and so on. And of course it's a totally inadequate way to understand America, that to try to impose that on the Middle East and on the Israeli-Palestinian crisis, the Israeli-Arab question, is quite wrong. The Iranian regime, I'm so glad you asked that. This is a very big one, isn't it? I mean, I agree with you. Everything one hears from the people of Iran is to wish to live in peace. And of course the regime wants exactly the opposite. The problem of the regime in Tehran is such a serious one. I mean, by the end of Trump's presidency, whatever one thinks of him, and you may have noticed there are some criticisms that can be levelled, whatever you think of him, he did actually bring the mullahs to their knees financially, and that had some good consequences, and I think would encourage the people to take back their country from this vile regime. Again, I mean, it's astonishing. Just yesterday or the day before, the Supreme Leader sent out this message of thanks to American students for turning out on campus on the side of the Palestinians. I mean, if I was one of those protesters, I'm not sure if I'd retweet that. it should be regarded as embarrassing. But there's such confusion on this in the West. When Raisi had his helicopter crash the other week, I said to some friends, I said, let's just wait and see how he's described by the mainstream media. And in the end, we got mixed legacy Raisi. That was kind of cute for a guy who hangs people from cranes. Mixed legacy. It's true, he hanged some people, shot others. So, swings and roundabouts. I'm amazed by those ones. I keep a record of the way in which you can flex somebody's reputation by just that one term. My friend Jordan Peterson is always described as controversial Professor Jordan Peterson. I knew that it wouldn't be controversial leader Raisi. No, mixed legacy. Jordan would never get mixed legacy, just controversial. But Raisi, mixed legacy. Just like, al-Baghdadi was described in the Washington Post after his early demise as an austere religious scholar. Well, that's a bit of the truth, but not the whole of it. I just would hope with everyone that my Iranian friends and Persian friends someday can live in peace in their country, and they deserve it.
So let's just go back to the original point that he was making about, using the term Palestine. And I think he's right. The problem is that when we talk about this language that they created simply to undermine Israel, we're actually giving them the upper hand, especially in the West, that glorifies the supposed underdog, and it fuels the false narrative that the Jews are the usurpers of the indigenous Palestinians. And so, regardless of whether or not one uses the term, I think for me the key takeaway is we have to be completely uncompromising and unabashed in saying that this is the Jewish people's homeland. We've been there for thousands of years, that the Palestinian cause is a ploy to get rid of Israel, and that they are Arabs. And Arabs are not indigenous to the land of Israel. They've always been happy for them to live alongside us, but they have to be living alongside us in peace. But it is Jewish land. The Arabs have many, many countries, as many Arab countries, as many Islamic countries. They have all kinds of natural resources. God has blessed them greatly with millions of people and a much greater amount of land than the Jewish people. But this land of Israel is for the people of Israel, and it belongs to the people of Israel. And we're not colonizers. We are the rightful inheritors of the land. And so I think that, in my view, is the key message. Regardless of what language we may or may not use, whether we dance to, these tunes and acknowledge these terms and play with them or not, the key thing is we should just be clear in telling the truth about the history and about our relationship with the land and about who really has the right to it. So I think that's the key takeaway from all of this. Hi, thank you so much for watching. To watch another one, click here. To stay up